By evening, they made it out to safety, where they decided to get acquainted. They were able to complete their business safely, and there was a lot to do. He tells her to mind her privacy and a wire transfer if she wants to meet again. But that's not what she says. She suggests we meet again. Im Jae-hwan was already waiting for Cha Ryung. He noticed that he had to sweat a lot. If you sell that thing, then the hype will be raised. You could buy a couple dozen buildings with that money. Im Jae-hwan praised Cha Ryung and said he would wire him the money tomorrow. Cha Ryung asks to take what was in the briefcase, except for this thing. Smugglers have their own rules, and they can take anything that doesn't pertain to the order. This thing turns out to be the royal jelly after all, and it was bought by some father who wants his kid to eat it. Cha Ryung said goodbye to Im Jae-hwan and wondered what Ji Se-rom had said. She said that it would be possible to enter Hero High School in the winter, and Cha Ryung would do well. The girl asks to study with her at the Hero High School. He has a lot of potential. Meanwhile, more than one hunter can't go through the dungeon alone. No matter what skills a hunter has, he won't be able to fight a crowd of monsters alone. That's why Hunter needs a team that will always help him. Ji Se-rom says there are already 2 groupies in her class. They are led by 2 students who are in the top 3. Ji Se-rom wants to get on the team, and people are recruited from groupies. The leader of one of the teams dislikes Ji Se-rom, but she doesn't show it. Ji Se-rom wants to hire Cha Ryung to her team because her 2nd and 3rd year won't be able to last without her. Cha Ryung, of course, promised to think about it. Ji Se-rom hopes Cha Ryung will call her. Meanwhile, she had already made it out to the dungeon barrier. Teacher Kang Jong-guk was waiting for her here. He is the class teacher of Class 1, 1B, and is a close combat instructor. He knows that there are monsters in that area that shouldn't be there, but she still passed the exam. But their dialogue was interrupted by Titanium Monkey, which has a 4-star danger rating. The teacher said to stand behind him and he could deal with her himself. The teachers at the School of Heroes are all ex-hunters. They usually graduated from the same school. Kang Jong-guk was nicknamed Tyranny Fighter. He was the so-called ranker, the strongest hunter of the strongest. He easily dealt with Titan Monkey, and other than that, he never paid attention to other people's opinions and became the strongest. After the battle, they headed to the Hero High School Basic Skills Training Camp. At camp, 2 students were talking about how if someone asked for help, the exam would have to be retaken. Kang Jong-guk had instructed her to wait for the others to return, to check if everything was in place, and to change into her school uniform. Ji Se-rom agreed to his instructions and decided to go to the tent, but she was called out. It was that elf. She says she was very worried about her, though that's a lie. Ji Se-rom says she can't have Anisha worrying about her, though she says she's hurt to hear it. 6 years ago, Zeke S-serm, her uncle, helped her learn a new spell. Ji Se-rom, at age 11, tried very hard to develop her skills, but she wasn't doing well. Anisha S-serm, on the other hand, has always done better. Her magic control abilities higher than pure-blood elves. Back then, he told her they'd be compared forever because they were cousins. Anisha still continues to be bullied, as for some reason no one wants to take Ji Se-rom in the team. She might as well go with her on the same team, only Anisha doesn't want to. They're both archers and both ranged fighters, so they can't be on the same team. Anisha says if she didn't pass, it's okay. There will be a retake. Only Ji Se-rom passed the exam. Even here, Anisha mocks her and tells her that she doesn't need to try hard. She'll get her father's company anyway. Cha Ryung's father is lying in Seoul Seongyu Hospital. Yu Seong had a sudden stroke. This is the only case in the whole world. There is practically no such thing. With dragon poisoning, no one survived or recovered. With modern technology, his father can only live on painkillers. There is a remedy that will help create an antidote. It's the milk of a monster called Heavenly Tiger. It has 5 danger stars. He knows it's a rare commodity, but money isn't the problem. There are rumors among hunters about a potion, even a small dose of which can increase muscular strength and resistance power. It, too, uses Heavenly Tiger milk, which used to be very cheap, but that has changed now. Now entrepreneurs and hunters are buying up this milk because it can be used to make potions. Cha Ryung isn't happy about it, but he recognized the underlying problem. Father needs a large dose of this milk, and 10 or more potions can be made from it. It was a difficult conversation that lasted well into the evening. Cha Ryung's phone was called by Ji Se-rom, who reminded her of the proposal. He agrees but asks about the conditions. Does her company have such a potion? Chise-rom will be able to get this potion, especially since it doesn't need much. They decide to meet on Sunday, and Chise-rom needs to start studying for the exams. On Sunday, Cha Ryong arrives at the Chinsung Group's Defense Industry Research Institute. He is met by Jise-rom, who finds out how he is feeling. She says it's important because they will be measuring his abilities. It turns out that each hunter has a definition of their powers. 5 stats must be sea level. Then one can become a hunter. If, however, 3 out of 5 indicators have reached rank B, you can apply to the hero school. Cha Ryong realized that he had to go through some sort of physical examination. Only as a teenager it was more difficult. How much more difficult? Because it's usually done when you're a kid. Much more difficult, it's usually rare. Geo Kron Pro was put up against Cha Ryong, and he's acting like a monster. He's wondering what his stats are on ability himself. Watching his battle is Jong Yo Min. She is a former hunter and works there as a golem summoner. To pick up stats, hunters are given special devices that measure the limit of a person's abilities. Jong Yo Min starts practicing, and she's also surprised that Cha Ryong goes to a regular school. He couldn't get into hero school because he failed the exam, though here she hesitates. Cha Ryong hadn't even reached his limit. It was easy enough for him. It's the first time she's encountered such a case, and she wants to run the golem at full power, except that Zeke Eserm, who is the director of research, has come in and he is not happy that the lab is being used without authorization. Jise-rom apologized because she asked Jong Yo Min, except Zeke has always been cold to her. Zeke noticed that Cha Ryong was now on the field. Jong Yo Min was trying to explain the situation, and he agreed. To measure his stats, he himself, in person, fights him. Cha Ryong didn't feel that he could beat him, but he realized that he had a chance. Zeke Esermi, ranked 7th in the South Korean rankings, and he's also a white hunter. Cha Ryong's strategy was simple. He hit with a light punch and used hitches between attacks. Zeke's point is that Cha Ryong is inattentive, and if one more time he misses a punch, he'll send him home. Cha Ryong changes tactics then, and he decides to keep his distance from his opponent. Except that doesn't save him. He has flaws. He has no basic knowledge, much to Zeke and Jong Yo Min's surprise. Even after that, Cha Ryong doesn't give up and offers to fight again. Cha Ryong was really angry that Zeke was allowing himself to be bullied and that he hadn't even thrown a punch. In childhood, the protagonist was not taught by anyone. He learned everything by himself. This was the first time Cha Ryong had met a real hunter other than his father. He attacks first, but Zeke just dodges it. Zeke recognizes that if Cha Ryong lands, he won't be able to dodge his attack anymore. Except the goal was not to get into Zeke, but to push his skills to the limit of possible evaluation. Jise-rom runs in, who was worried about Cha Ryong, except he healed him. Zeke leaves, thinking that he didn't expect to find his son here. Because of this battle, evening came and Zeke was a little late. He gets picked up by a buddy who is unhappy that Zeke's tardiness is causing him to be blamed. He explained to him what was wrong, except his buddy noticed the scratch on Zeke's cheek. Buddy's name is Kang Gong-ho. He's the leader of NYX, Korea's first dungeon clearing squad. He has a ranking of 19. Zeke notices that Kang Gong-ho and Cha Ryong are of the same level. Their powers are on par. Cha Ryong has just come to his senses. He's surprised that he has no wounds and nothing hurts. Jise-rom came to see him and asked him if he thought he could beat Zeke. No one has ever been able to do that. Cha Ryong had picked up on the fact that Zeke, though cold to Jise-rom, still cared for her. Cha Ryong's stats are higher than Jise-rom's. They excel in everything except magic. She thought his stats were even higher than someone in one of the groups. However, Cha Ryong said he has an acquaintance who has even higher numbers. It was his father, who is now in the hospital. Before leaving, Zeke allowed Cha Ryong to visit the production department, where he could pick out his own gear at his expense. Every hunter wants good equipment items. They can fill in their weaknesses, making them stronger. Equipment items should be of high quality and should be changed as rank increases. Before entering the school, Cha Ryong needs to get the right equipment because that's the rules. Investors are interested in apprentices who will become rankers in the future and work for them, fulfilling private orders. The boys headed to the production department. Research is very big that they even have their own blacksmith shop. Before the sweep, there was a dungeon here, and Cha Ryung noticed a stranger's gaze on him. Cha Ryung already wanted to start fighting, but Chiso Ram stopped him. It's the head of the forge in the production department. He's not human. His name is Argis Thunderhammer. He is a senior titan, and he is a citizen of the Republic of Korea. Argis was personally tasked by Zeke to make weapons for Cha Ryung. But Argis won't just make weapons. He demands to do what his tribe did. He wants to see what Cha Ryung is capable of. Cha Ryung decided to demonstrate his technique called Needle. Only Argis was confused by something else. He asked where he got the weapon from. In the past, Argis has had a danger level of 7 stars, and he still hasn't gotten an answer to his question. This weapon was made by Argis, and he doesn't know how Cha Ryung got it. Only Cha Ryung wasn't going to say where he got this weapon from, and Argis attacked him. Cha Ryung realized that Argis was like a stone, and he had one last flow technique left. He was certainly able to fend off his blow, but the monster took it with his mechanical arm. But at that moment, he was saved by Chi Se Rom, who explained that he, having citizenship, had no right to attack a person. Argis wasn't just dissatisfied with that. He had the day off today and wanted to get some sleep. Beyond that, Argis recognized that Cha Ryung had a right to the weapon and would reward him. Argis works for humans for a reason. He was defeated by one hunter and defeated by Yu Sung. It happened 30 years ago, and it was the one Cha Ryung recalled. In total, there are no more than 10 Elder Titans living on Earth. They have good stats, but their real strength is creating better weapons and gear. 30 years ago, there was an operation to capture Ares, and Colossus stood in their way. Colossus B is Argis's automatic puppet, and his danger level is about 4 stars. No matter how hard the hunters tried, Colossus was very difficult to defeat. Except Yu Seong came to help. He was still a volunteer back then. Until now, Yu Sung was an unknown hunter, and his debut was here. He spent more time training and saving others, but from that point on he was noticed. His strength Colossus could not overpower. He was chopped in 2. Argis was then surprised that those hunters died fighting the Colossus, and Yu Song was able to deal with it in 2 strikes. That's when he also found out who Yu Seong was. The two got into a fight where Yu Sung showed off his move called Flow. Argis recognized that Yu Song was the strongest of all the hunters, but he didn't give up. And further, he learned of Yu Song's new technique, the Ripple, redirecting his strike against himself. At that moment, the monster named Argis. His life became Cha Ryung's father's. Yu Song's weapon was broken after the battle, and Argis was banished, and he was obliged to work for the humans now. That pole was the hilt from the main weapon, but Yu Song needed it as soon as possible. Because of that, only the hilt was left. Argis asks to give up that pole. He will make a weapon no longer for his father, but for Cha Ryung. He promises to get it done as soon as possible, but he doesn't know how long it will take. As the day came to an end, Jisai Rom said that Cha Ryung's father was a very famous and important man. Jisai Rom decided to read up on the internet, and she now suspects that Cha Ryung's father is Yu Sung. The action continues in the teacher's lounge of the dungeon-clearing faculty. This girl's name is Cho Se-ah. She is the class teacher of Class 1. 2, she is 27 years old, and she is a magic tutor. Kang Jong-guk came to her, still wanting to check his students' results. Currently, there are only 3 students in the freshman class who have been called geniuses. The first one is Che Diav. He has good swordsman skills and magical powers. The second student is Anisha Ezerm. She has very strong magical skills. The third apprentice, on the other hand, is Tir Belkason. He has incorporated the best skills of dwarf and human. Kang Jong-guk isn't surprised by the results. Tir Belkason isn't particularly communicative, but he says singles always has an advantage. 3 days later, Tir Belkason was walking down the street and accidentally hit on one of the guys on the street. He's really big, so he spilled that kid's soda. Tir Belkason is a very polite and humble man. He apologized to the guy. He said he didn't mean to do it. His mom always taught it. Her name is Seok Yu Bin. She is a hunter who worked in Europe. It turned out that although Tir Belkason is capable and he was able to get in, he doesn't know much Korean. Now he decided to go to the computer club to play and eat. Only he's having some problems. He can't register there. Chae-ryong volunteered to help him deal with it. He explained to him how to register, and besides that, a couple other computer club tricks. Cha-ryong got up early because he wanted to meet Se-rom, but she overslept. He also speculates about the items he took on the last outing. He can't sell them yet. The only thing he can sell is the Blood of Enkill artifact. Enkill is a reptilian titan who is very difficult to defeat. It is currently illegal to hunt Enkill. Such an artifact has increased in value a great deal. He was interrupted from his musings by Tyr Belkason, who asked if he wanted to play with him. There are spaces between Seoul and the dungeons, the so-called ruins. Walls were built in the ruins, and for the past 20 years monsters have not been able to overcome it. Outside the gates, two men ride out in vehicles. They are transporting a small monster. One of those people's name is Cho Yun-ah. She is 31 years old. She is a former gold-ranked hunter, quit after damaging her eye. Sung Chan-woo is sitting behind the wheel. He is a former bronze-ranked hunter. He is 22 years old. The car was hit good by something. They thought that the monster might have gotten out of the back stack, but that's impossible. Cho Yun-ah went out to check what it was, and Sung Chan-woo has to call and say they have a stop to check. He was confident in her, and when she opened the door, Sung Chan-woo praised her, only it wasn't Cho Yun-ah. Another girl got into the cab of the truck and said that she was too weak for a civil servant, Cho Yun-ah. She ordered him to drive on if he wanted to live. Meanwhile, Tyr Belkason and Cha-ryun have won a couple of rounds and decided to take a bite. Their lunch break was interrupted by a loud sound like an explosion. Next to the computer building, the very truck that was carrying the monsters crashed into the building. That girl looked up at it and reported back to her superiors. She would be able to get away unnoticed. Horned, terror-type monsters started coming out of the truck. The number of horns determines their level of danger. The girl said whoever bet on 50 people, she would bet too. They can deal with 100 before the hunters arrive. Only Cha-ryung wasn't okay with that. He started saving people. No sooner had he dealt with one, another appeared, and he had 2 horns. On average, the horned terror lives 5, 6 years, but about 8% can grow a second rag, and their danger level is 3 stars. From the road sign, Cha-ryung made himself a weapon similar to his pole. Except that the monster didn't want to fight, it jumped over and attacked ordinary passers-by. But the passerby is saved by Tyr Belkason, who stopped his shot. The monster needed to be dealt with, and Cha-ryung used his technique, the needle. Though he was done, the boys were distracted by something else. It was already a real explosion where the container was. The situation was much worse, with hunters needing more time. But Tyr Belkason was distracted by Cha-ryung, who guessed he was Tank, and he told him to use his provocation cry. Chae-ryong was going to fight alone anyway, and this way it would be easier to gather all the monsters. In addition, Tyr Belkason has also performed well in games, which means that they will definitely work together. He drew the attention of all the monsters to himself. The girl who was on the roof was very surprised by this. All the horned terror monsters from the neighborhood have gathered. Senior among them in rank ordered an attack on Tyr Belkason. Tank is able to withstand large attacks, so he'll be calm. At that time, Cha-ryung saw that the monsters were collecting the corpses of people into that truck. 2 two-horns attacked Cha-ryung, but they had tactics. Cha-ryun took on the 2 strong ones, and Tyr Belkason took on the 4 weak ones. The following problem has come to light. The road sign is not suitable for battle. It can't withstand Cha-ryung's strength. Terrible conditions where a minute mistake could cost a life. He used it to climb 1 more rung. The 4th technique that was mastered was Zeke's, and it's called the downpour. He was saved from the 2nd by Tyr Belkason, who had already dealt with his opponents. At this time, they were being filmed on their cell phones by 2 students. His name is Cho Dong-yoon. He's 23 years old and the leader of a dungeon research circle. The other one's name is Kim Jang-hyun. He's also 23 years old and a member of the dungeon research circle. Judging from the number of monsters and stars not below gold rank, perhaps they are studying in the hero school. Jo Dong-yoon asks Kim Jang-hyun to edit the video and put it on the internet. If they put it out first, it will gain big views, unlike the Ultra Manhwa recap channel, which is not watched. Tyr Belkason lifted Cha-ryun. He's not feeling well. Tank said that Cha Ryong was great. He single-handedly dealt with two horns. That's worth a lot. Cha Ryong says it's nothing. Tyr Belkason himself has taken down 9 monsters and still finished off the last one. He had low-level monsters, something even a normal person with a weapon could handle. They got into a conversation about school. Tyr Belkason doesn't know yet that he's a third-round pick. No sooner had Cha Ryong wondered if he would be able to transfer to their school than he saw the monster. The monster was standing on the container and didn't want to attack. Cha Ryong guessed that it wasn't the monster, but the container. But this monster was dragged inside the container by someone. Horned horrors were tribal-type monsters. The 2-horned individuals were considered the heads. When several tribes united, they became stronger and multiplied faster. At one point, this order was disrupted by a mutant with 3 horns. It was a horned terror Rex. His danger level was already 5 stars. He immediately attacked the boys and they split up. Rex is very fast, and to defend himself, Cha Ryong used the flow technique. The road sign broke, and Cha Ryong himself was unable to save himself with this technique. That's when Tyr Belkason came to the rescue. He wanted to knock him over. Only it was Rex who knocked him over. He was much stronger than he was. Currently, no one knows exactly what kind of person Yu Seong was, but who could say for sure what exactly he left behind? 11 years ago, Yu Sung made a statement that shocked the world. Seo Ram searches for information and can't believe that Yu Sung was called False Dragon Killer. He recognized all of his accomplishments as fake, all 43 accomplishments. The documents did not indicate that Cha Ryong was his own son. Cha Ryong still couldn't understand what was happening to his body. But one thing was clear. It still kept moving. He used a new technique on him, destroying rain. But his power was suddenly gone. That's the last thing we need. Tyr Belkason tries to bum rush Rex with a series of wild strikes but only just misses. That was enough time for Cha Ryong to give him a decisive blow. After that, other hunters came to the rescue. It didn't take an hour for this news to shake the whole of Korea, but along with it, the 2 heroes had a huge impact on the whole